background in mental health and working with communities of color in the Bay Area of California. And I kind of just wanted to talk about this topic of parenting. I have a sports coaching background as well. I worked with a lot of kids, a lot of parents, a lot of families. And what I found is that a lot of them, a lot of children deal with the pressure of trying to live up to the expectations of parents, trying to live up to the ideas of their success that are many times defined by their parents with the best of intentions. Many times parents are perceiving the world around them and looking and observing and saying, these are opportunities for my child to find success. And in success, they mean an opportunity to have access to resources, to provide for themselves, care for themselves, and hopefully have the agency in life to be able to, live a full life. And that's many times, especially in the Black community, in reflection of how hard it can be. A lot of us as parents have experienced a lot of the difficulties of prejudice and discrimination, a lack of educational opportunities and resources to kind of further your goals in life. And that could be heartbreaking. That could be devastating. And we look at those in our communities who suffer from the lack of access to opportunities and support. And many times it's easy for us to kind of project the idea that, well, if I can get my kid here, I've done a great job as a parent. If I can get my kid to this place that I believe will help them find success, I've done my job as a parent. And to an extent, I think that it is important that parents have an intentional outlook of supporting, um, reinforcing the talents and abilities of our children. But what we have to be careful of is defining their success for them. One of the things that I've loved learning about is just different philosophical ways of looking at our lives. And one of the things that has been coming up is that each new generation has a different task based upon a different reality, based upon a different experience. I think about myself as someone who's going to college and graduate school, and in my parents' generation, going to college was everything. You get a bachelor's degree, you could be set. You can get you a career, a job, spend 30, 35 years with a country, sorry, not a country, a corporation, an industry, and you can live a really uh, I would say a good life in terms of access and agency and ability to have the flexibility to create the life you want. But that wasn't true in my generation. In my generation, the costs of education, college skyrocketed, inflation took place, and college debt began to take over. And as a result, well, a lot of us are stuck with college debt and nowhere near the level of economic access that our parents were afforded to. Now, that's a contrast to what my grandparents experienced, right? Where it wasn't necessarily about college, more about trades and you become a part of a union and things like that. It changes from every generation. So all that's to say is that if you're projecting your experience as a parent onto your child as the idea of what it looks like for them to find success, many times you're going to end up undermining how they might actually see themselves navigating the world as they're finding it for a future that looks very different than our own. Now, one of the things that I also want to point out is you also run the risk of disconnecting from your child when you can't actually observe who your child is and what they are leaning towards in terms of their propensities, their interests, their desires, and you try to make them into something else. You try to mold them into what you want them to be, maybe an extension of yourself, maybe the athletic career that you wanted, maybe it's the ideas of success, whether it's becoming the prototypical doctor, lawyer, engineer type of trio. You might you might actually get them in there, and they might resent you for it. They might feel disconnected from you for it. They might find it difficult to connect with you, to go to you, to trust you, to talk to you, to be open and honest and vulnerable with you. And having worked with many students, many youth in high school, college, a lot of them suffer from depression, anxiety, utilizing substances in order to deal with that anxiety and stress and trying to perform at high levels. And these are the ones who are getting the A's and the B's. And then there are those who aren't able to get the A's and the B's and disconnect from their parents because they never feel accepted, they never feel seen. And they turn to other spaces where they do feel accepted and seen. And unfortunately, parents can sometimes begin to condemn their child for it, that it's their fault, or disconnect and reject them and call them lazy and say all sorts of things. But it's really important that we check ourselves first and say, well, what is the most important thing? What is the most important thing when I raise my child? And for me, it's landing in a place of relationship. I don't know what the world is going to have. I don't know how the world is going to change. I don't know where my child is going to lean towards in her life. But I do want to know that my child trusts me and can come to me in relationship to be able to seek advice and wisdom and know that she can feel seen, cared for, supported, that she's welcomed, that she's worthy of love, that it's not about her performance, it's not about how well she does in terms of A's and B's and degrees. Because imagine if she has a terrible teacher, right? Now all of a sudden, I'm making her feel rejected. I'm dismissive or minimizing what she's experiencing because she hasn't attained my idea of where I want her to be. You see, we don't control all the factors. And sometimes we can spend so much energy on trying to control the lives of our child for the best of intentions, hopefully with the best of intentions. For some of us, we're just unaware and completely ignorant of our internal narratives that are kind of creating how we're trying to parent, our fears, our anxieties, our experience. And our parenting can sometimes have far more to do with us than it does our child. And then we placate it off as, oh, well, I was trying my best and caring. Really, you were trying to work through your own childhood stuff. Really, you were trying to figure out your own disappointments and frustrations with life and then projecting that onto your child and figuring if you can give them what you didn't have, then they would have a better life than you. Now, realizing that they ain't you, they're them. So, what was better for you doesn't necessarily mean it's better for them. And so, anchoring yourself in relationship is a fundamental aspect of parenting. You don't know what the future holds, and you don't know how they're going to find the world and see the best way for them to navigate it. What you can do is align yourself in relationship to be a support and a caring factor that empowers them to find success as they would define it in the future reality that they are walking into, not the one that we experienced at their age. My name is Ross. I'm a family relationship care coach. If you learned anything from this live video, received anything that's of interest, or want to talk more, please leave it in the comments. Um, Hope you have an amazing day. Remember, this is a journey. It's a marathon in parenthood. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect. We just need to be consistent, and accepting. Peace.